I actually really wanted to experience a lightning strike inside the cupola. Like I may have, I don't know who's listening. Okay. I may have spent a night in a cupola for that purpose of trying, I was just like, come on, please let it happen. I just wanted that experience because they've all been in their cupolas struck by lightning, like the tower.
It's a joy today to be speaking with Tova Krentzman, the director of Fire Tower. Tova, thank you so much for the chance to speak with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. It is honestly, this film is so much fun. And it's how did it begin? What made you want to tell this story?
Um, well, first of all, it's great to hear responses because this is just the beginning for me to ever hear anyone say anything because I haven't shown it. So, thank you. I I worked in a wild firefighting camp one summer. And it was early in the season, and the lookouts were on their way to their respective towers, and so I was working as a cook actually, and they came through and they stayed for a bit, and I got to speak to them and hear their stories, and was fascinated by what they had to say, and also about they were all concerned about how about their jobs remaining, um and I also, yeah, I got to visit a tower, and so it was just incredible, and it just planted the seed for me. I myself have spent time at sea observing, like far off at sea, working on ships as a merchant seaman, where I was on the bridge looking out for hours and just standing watch. So I had that sort of kind of similar connection. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Having spent time with them and having had that space yourself, what in your mind does it take to be a lookout? Because this is a role or cultural role that few people really, I hate to say it, but think about the impact on their lives.
So what kind of person, is the lookout type of person? I mean, interestingly, there isn't one type, but what they would have in common is a sense of being able to be comfortable with themselves. And uh, one of the people that that led the fire lookout program for many years, Tim Klein, he mentioned to me, when I interviewed him, where he was like, he told people the lookout is not the place to go to find yourself. It's not the place to figure it out. It's you have to be already have a certain comfort because you're sitting with your mistakes, you're sitting with everything, every decision you made, every bad decision, every good, and so it could be hard if if you don't have cape those coping mechanisms and all that, and then I think a lot of people have interests outside of the lookout as well, because there are times where you're not in the tower, especially if it was rainy weather. And so many of them are musicians or do artwork or projects or write poetry, or they all do different things. And so having something that interests you is something great. And one of the lookouts, one of the things I love, she said, is that she realizes how critical boredom is for creativity. And I love that because you here these days you just stream something, or you don't feel good, you don't feel, you're tired, you're upset, you just stream something to distract you. And here you actually have to create something or figure it out, and you know it's great. So I love that.
I love that conversation. And yeah, absolutely that there's this conversation. Yeah, the being bored is so essential to creativity.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I tell my kids that. They're like, "Oh, I'm so bored." I said, "There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay." Um,
Good. That's
but
very
there's a
good.
certain stamina in this, you know.
True. True. You're right. There is, and it's not easy to have your eyes focused and not be nodding off, not be falling asleep. I mean, for hours and 10 hours a day, peeled eyes on the horizon, it is not easy. And I think I saw them coming down off the tower after at the end of a day, and and it's exhausting. It is exhausting. So yeah, you do need stamina, and they climb 100-foot tower several times a day. And but you know, one of the women in the film, she's in her 70s now, and she's doing it. And so, but they do it. So there is the stamina, and there is that, and then there's the care that they have about what they're doing. Like, people take serious pride in what they're doing, and they take it seriously, and protecting the nature and the people. So it doesn't have it, the person does have many special attributes.
Yeah, I forget which one it was, but somebody talks about, they say that I think I have a very great responsibility to be diligent.
Yes,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't I imagine that would be so necessary in something like this, because they're not chilling up there. They're working.
yeah. So yeah, that's Robert. He's from the Yukon, and yeah, that's what I mean. All of them, they all take their jobs very seriously. So yeah, it's really special to see that.
Now, in making the film, I'm sure you spent a lot of time up in the towers. And I mean, I was just wondering what it was like, because you see some of the footage there of being in the storms, or seeing the fires off in the distance. And there's a certain level of danger, certainly, as well, to this isolation. But being isolated like that and being up there with them, what was that experience like for you?
Um, I think for us, I mean, I didn't feel any imminent danger, and I actually really wanted to experience a lightning strike inside the cupola. Like, I may have, I don't know who's listening. Okay, I may have spent a night in a cupola for that purpose of trying. I was just like, come on, please let it happen. I just wanted that experience, because they've all been in their cupolas struck by lightning, like the tower.
Wow.
So they all have these crazy descriptions of, of just the static and the sensation before a lightning will hit. And so it's really fascinating to me. But I mean, I would say that we were not experiencing, me and my camera person, we weren't experiencing the solitude and any of those kind of things. I mean, because we were busy, making the film, and we were spending time with the people as well, and really enjoying that part of it. But we were chasing smokes. Anytime we heard a siren go off on our phones of evacuation potential notices, and we were just gassing it towards the spot we were supposed to leave. So we did want to see things and stuff, but we weren't in danger, whereas the people that do work the lookouts, one of the people in the film, the next season, he was evacuated the next season, and his tower burned to the ground. And not his tower, his cabin down below. Like, the fire completely overtook his place, and he was evacuated very early in the season. So it is scary. But and then even the smoke, that they still are there with all the smoke, and they're just trying to keep an eye to see what they could still find out. So for them, it's dangerous. But for me, I wouldn't say it would have been dangerous. It was just a sort of I felt honored and grateful to be able to be there. And I mean, we were in these beautiful places, right? Because they're all high, wonderful, like, just spectacular views. And so it was a great project to do. And that's something, I guess, one thinks about, that I realize now as well. If I ever make a documentary again, you want to make sure you make a documentary about somewhere you want to be, maybe, because you're spending a lot of time. But either way, I mean, that it we didn't have to feel the solitude or danger that they feel.
Of course. Well, you talked too about the conversations you've had about them fearing for their jobs, and without at the final scroll on the film talks about how many of them have been in decommissioned towers and just replaced by cameras. I was wondering, in your mind, what do we lose, or is there anything that we lose in that process, in this technological advancement?
I mean, I think most people in the wildfire department and the lookout programs would all agree that having eyes, like a person watching, is incredibly valuable and irreplaceable because there's so many nuances
Hmm.
that they're seeing, especially when they know an area very well. They can tell the difference and really spot things early. And that's kind of the key for firefighting, and, for being able to control a fire is spotting it early. And they could catch it with a wisp of smoke that maybe a camera wouldn't see as clearly, and then the technology definitely has not been developed to the point really to replace them at this time. But decisions are not made by the people who are in these places. They're often made by bureaucrats and politicians sitting in a desk somewhere else. And so I don't think it's always up to the people who wanted to go on to make those decisions. But because all the people I spoke to love their lookouts, and the people working see that. And so I mean, there's even times, I mean, examples that I heard of where somebody noticed and they knew the area so well that they saw a reflection in the hill
Mm.
that shouldn't have been there because the snow had melted already. So it would be a reflection you would see on ice or something, but there shouldn't have been any ice. And he called in just to ask, to have someone check on that. And it was an airplane that had crashed, and they were able to find. So it's just, there's so many things, just the subtleties that they're able to notice. And again, the early detection element is just huge.
Yeah, there's no technology to determine, a wind. Well, I guess there is technology to determine a wind change. I'm going to sound foolish if I say that, but I mean, like, there's sort of there's an impulse, a relationship when you're there that must be different than just seeing it on a screen or reading levels. It's well, that must differ.
Right. And yeah, I mean, at the moment it's just not, the technology isn't there anyways. I mean, based on what I've seen and read. But yeah, there's really something specific about knowing your area, and looking and being able to detect things really quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, honestly, Tova, the film is so much fun, and I say that, and I say fun because it's an aspect of life that I haven't seen before, and seeing the dedication of these men and women that are working so hard. What do you hope audiences take away from the film?
Well, I'm one of the things that I'm happy to hear as well, just even from you saying it, is just the awareness that of what exists, like what actually is going into the whole the whole big picture of wildfire detection and wildfire, how this works. It's you have the lookouts, but you also are able to observe them calling in the radios, and then there's even some the firefighters, the wildland firefighters. It's such a big network that is incredible, and we don't really know about or think about, especially when it's remote. We see stuff on the news, but yeah, that doesn't really take into account, especially the lookouts. And so I think that's just, the awareness is great, I think. And then I just hope it causes some, people have introspection on, because there's the world can be many different things, and our perception of ourselves in it and in relation to our environment can be seen in different ways. And I hope people are able to see this, and have them think whatever it makes them think, but just to sort of maybe bring that topic into people's thoughts.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of the festival. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much.